Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It is Wednesday, July the 15th. I'm Andrew Gagan. Well, the local market is set for a positive opening with ASX futures up more than 0.5%. Global equity markets have shaken off concerns about the escalating conflict in the Middle East and have welcomed cooler than expected US inflation data, while positive US bank earnings also buoyed investors. On Wall Street, the S&P 500 and Nasdaq advanced, boosted by a rebound in chip shares. Second quarter earnings season began with 5 of the big US banks reporting solid results off the back of surging trading revenue, with the SpaceX IPO raking in around $500 million in fees for the banks. Goldman Sachs exceeded second quarter profit expectations as its deal-making picked up, and market volatility amid the US-Iran war boosted equities revenue to a record $7.4 billion, sending shares to an all-time peak. JP Morgan posted the highest quarterly profit ever by a US bank, making a record $6 billion from equities trading alone, with Chief Executive Jamie Dimon saying it's getting as close to as good as it gets. We just don't know how long it's going to last. Well, Bank of America also rose after delivering consensus beating profits. However, Citigroup slid as worries over expenses overshadowed its profit beat, while Wells Fargo also dropped. And IBM shares plummeted more than 25% after the company warned second quarter revenue would fall below estimates because of a shift in corporate spending from software to data center infrastructure. Well, US inflation slowed more than expected in June as energy prices retreated, with the CPI down 0.4% over the month, the first decline since April 2020. The pullback mostly reflecting an almost 6% drop in energy prices. For the 12 months to June, inflation rose 3.5%, while core inflation was also softer than expected at 2.6% year on year. Meanwhile, Kevin Warsh made his first appearance before lawmakers as Fed chair, telling them that the members of our committee have no tolerance for persistently elevated inflation, and we share a resolute commitment to restoring price stability. He went on to say if we get policy right, and we will, the inflation surge of the last 5 years will be a thing of the past. US Treasury yields fell following the inflation data, the US 2-year falling to 4.19%, the 10-year at 4.59. Markets now pricing in a 20% chance the Fed funds rate will be hiked by 25 basis points at the next meeting at the end of the month, and a 70% chance of a hike by September. The Australian 3-year government bond yield futures fell to 4.48%, the 10-year at 4.92%. The US dollar index down around 0.33%, the Aussie dollar has climbed to 69.7 US cents. Oil prices have continued rising after the US reimposed a naval blockade on Iran, which will reduce oil flows from the region through the Strait of Hormuz. However, President Trump walked back on his proposal to charge shipping a 20% fee in the Strait of Hormuz, saying he would instead seek investment deals with Gulf states. Brent futures rose more than 1.5% to settle at just below $85 a barrel. Gold gained more than 2% after softer than expected inflation data dampened expectations of Fed rate hikes. Spot gold up more than 1.5% at around $4,050 an ounce. Copper futures rose more than 1%. Iron ore up 1.5% to 102 US a tonne. And Bitcoin has surged to be trading at more than 64,500 US dollars. It is quiet on the data front today. On the corporate calendar, quarterly updates are expected from Rio Tinto, Evolution Mining, Auckland Airport and Amplitude Energy. That is your day ahead. See you again tomorrow.